The first peoples walked this land for 2,000 generations before the Kaurna saw the invaders' 9 tall ships anchored in the bay. In just 2 generations, the new arrivals displaced the Kaurna and other peoples from the country that was home to their body and spirit. They surveyed the land and divided it up and sold it. Englishman Dr. William Wyatt bought up land. He grew rich from it and became a prominent identity in the new colony. When he died, he left his wealth in a trust to benefit South Australians. 136 years passed, and the Uluru Statement urged Australians to look again at their colonial history. The governors of the trust that bears Wyatt's name asked Eastern Arrente woman and historian Dr Jennifer Caruso to re-examine the life and times of William Wyatt, to find out about his attitudes and the effect that his actions had on the Kaurna and other First Peoples.
When I was approached by the Wyatt Trust, I was really quite pleased that here was a long-established institution that was seeking to hold the mirror up to itself and to look at the history of the institution and going right back to its roots. And so I thought to myself, there are not very many institutions who do that. And there are not very many institutions who take it on board as a process that will both inform themselves historically from a position which is not the accepted and dominant narrative, and also to make the decision to use whatever the findings are to inform the ways in which they as an institution see themselves and move forward. Wyatt Trust gave me you could say a broad brush, but it was certainly within the framework of undertaking research and to discover what William Wyatt's interactions with Aboriginal people were, both during his time as protector and after his time as protector. So there was certainly an interest in what his engagement was, or what his advocacy was for Aboriginal people.
For Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, a lot of our lived experiences are shaped by what's happened in the past, and so and a lot of what we know about that has been, told by non-Aboriginal people through a non-Aboriginal lens. And so, the process of truth telling is to really tell our stories and acknowledge that what happened in the past, both the good, the bad and the ugly, so a lot of the negative things that happened as part of Australia becoming what it is, are recognised, and the impact that they have today is recognised.
Having an Aboriginal researcher leading the truth-telling process is incredibly important. Auntie Jenny is incredibly well respected within South Australia, within Australia, and she has the combination of expertise and experience in that area, but also the lived experience of experiencing firsthand the devastating effects of colonialism.
For an Aboriginal researcher who's having to really engage with historical records and, really nothing in those is pleasant. Nothing in the way that we're talked about, the way that we're described, the things that happen to us, the images, they're our ancestors and we're connected to them, and so that's deeply felt still. So I think that there is a huge cost for an Aboriginal person or an Aboriginal researcher to be engaging in this work, and at the same time, we're the only ones who can do that.
Well, first we were deeply grateful to those who had contributed to the report, and particularly the author, Dr Jenny Caruso, because we're aware that in the telling and the retelling of their stories and the stories of the ancestors, it's painful and it comes at a significant emotional cost. And we were sobered by what we read in this story of our colonial past in South Australia and the violence and the cruelty that was inflicted on the first inhabitants of this land. The report confirmed that the wealth of the bequest has largely derived from property purchased by William Wyatt, and that land that was purchased was not ceded by the original inhabitants of this and owners of this land. We can't go back and deny or change the past, but the history will now inform the present and the future in a much more fulsome and honest way.